So, there's this creeper guy at my job. He happens to be a semi regular customer and only happens to show up when there are really generous sales in the store. Either way, a long time ago I ran into this guy, helped him with his purchases of DVDs, and when that was a thing in my life had become totally creepified at one point. You see, even though back then I was simply helping out the guy get his DVDs because he was old and I knew he was going to whine about it that day, apparently since then he would strategize his way into the line of the store, so from that point on, he'll always end up at my register. Now, I thought he only did that because he thought I'd be excellent in helping him with future purchases or items that he couldn't find in the store, because, to be honest, some of the people at my job are absolute shit when it comes to trying to help people, and I'm the only one who actually cares to help people, but apparently that wasn't completely the case. So yeah, I thought he would constantly come to my register because he knew that I appreciated the customer and wanted to help. But yeah, that's what I thought. I'm good at customer service. I help people, that's it. But boy, was I surprised when I found out that he was only coming to my register to flirt with me. No, it wasn't so apparent at first because he was an older Asian man with a slightly thick accent, so most of the things he said weren't as easily understood by me. Granted, when I'm faced with a customer whose accent is thick, I tend to try my best to understand them, or I completely act as if I understand them by playing off the occasional head nod, slight laugh, only if they laugh, and constantly repeating or mumbling yes or right if they seem troubled by something within the store. Now, of course, with the things he would say, I wouldn't really get, so I'd fall back on my 3 communicational habits when it came to speaking with him, but I just totally fucked up. So now I know from here on out I am no longer doing that. You see, to start off, after I helped him, there was another occasion weeks later where he was aimlessly walking around the store after I had helped him again at my register. Now, I had thought he left the store after I helped him, because it was only later that I saw him walking around the store when I had to go run errands. I didn't try to assist him because I was busy, but I figured if he was still walking around the store when I was done, I would try to help him. Anyway, about 15 minutes later, when I was done with my tasks, I did happen to see him walking around some more, so I approached him and tried to help because, he was old, and he was lost, obviously. He didn't know where anything was. At least that's what my assumption was. It's a big store. It almost as big as a Walmart. I wasn't sure if he was confused or not. A long time ago, he couldn't find the DVD that I easily found that one time, so yeah, I thought I'd help. He was constantly looking at his cell phone, which gave me the idea that he probably had just bought himself a Galaxy S6 or 7, I don't know, and didn't know how it worked. Either way, I tried to help him with his problem, and granted I had no idea what he was muttering and mumbling, he kept showing me his cell phone and talking about messaging and how something didn't work. With that, I assumed he didn't know how to text. Still, my first idea was to grab an associate from the device department and have one of them assist, considering I'm only a cashier and it's not really my job or responsibility to handle cell phone assistance. Either way, when I went to tell the guy that, he immediately shook his head and just asked me to message him to make sure that his messaging worked. I figured he was in a hurry, so I carelessly attempted to help him by shooting him a message. His phone flashed, we both saw that it worked, and with that he muttered something else that I couldn't understand. I nodded, said something along the lines of glad I could help, and waved him off. But before I could even walk away, he said something clearly to me that left me a little unsettled. He smiled at me and told me, maybe I'll call you later. In the clearest English I've ever heard. It was at that point that I figured, hey, maybe he was joking around. There was no way this old man would pretend that he didn't know what his number was in order for me to specifically give him mine via text, only so he could have some way to contact me. No way, not this old guy, not to me, not... What? No. Because if so, what a fucking creep and a grade A scumbag. Anyway, rather than assume the worst, I went on with my day, assuming that the guy was only joking because we didn't know each other at all, and why would he give me a call? Even though, still, I told a security guy about it because I wasn't sure if me being a cashier and not a commission-based person on the sales floor was even allowed to give their number out to customers. Either way, I rested well with that assumption because that seemed to make more sense than the sleazy assumption that I first figured. But boy was I fucking wrong. Granted, a few months had passed, and maybe there was a day where the guy showed up at the store once and was being assisted by another associate. I figured that what the guy said was a joke, as he never communicated with me through the phone, and in the store he would only wave, and I would do the same just to be polite. Either way, another few months passed, and surprisingly, I ended up getting a text from an unknown number with a message asking me if I was going to be at my job on a specific day. I found that message surprising and creepy, but I knew that I never gave my number out to anyone of whom I didn't know, and granted I would get random calls and texts from family and friends of the former owner of my current number. This text verified that this unknown number guy knew me, so I could only assume that it was the guy. I was disturbed because of fucking course the days I had went on thinking that this guy wasn't going to do anything with my number, he did, and he kept it for all that time. I don't care what anyone thinks, that shit is creepy. Anyway, I didn't respond. I just kept working, hoping this guy would think that I changed my number or some shit, but due to my rather shitty luck, this guy came into the store and specifically marched to my register. And of fucking course, on that day, I was the only one on a goddamn register, so eventually I was left alone to talk to this guy who I now found to be a total fucking creep. Either way, I tried to hurry to scan his items and process his transactions as quickly as possible, and of course during this time he was mumbling words that I still barely understood. But eventually he said words that I caught, this time being, "Don't eat lunch, I'll wait for you outside."
Fuck that.
Honestly, when he was in full creeper mode, his English was perfect. Anyway, so it was at this point that I was completely uncomfortable. Again, I don't know this man. He pretty much tricked me out of my number, and now he was contacting me and trying to assure that I was going to basically have him take me out. No, sorry. No, sorry. I smiled and shook my head a bit, which caused him to laugh, and unconsciously I laughed too, but I was dead ass serious. Perhaps it didn't seem that way, but I meant it, and this was surprising for me. This had never happened to me, and I didn't really know how to deal with creeps like this in a polite manner that wouldn't result in me losing my job. I've dealt with normal creeps who try to be nice and get to know me, even though at the end of the day, I know they just want a number and a booty call. Yeah, with those guys, I easily tell them I'm a lesbian or that I have a boyfriend/fiance in the Navy, which they quickly leave me alone. But this guy, I didn't understand what he was doing and what his motives were, but at this point I could easily gather that he wanted the same thing. He was just going about it in a really sleazy way. Either way, I continued to shake my head as I processed his transaction, as he still continued to mumble things. So as he continued to say whatever, I would respond with dismissive okays until his receipt was printed. Once it was, though, I handed it to him rather quickly and hurried to help the next customer. But of course this guy wanted to tell me before leaving that he'll wait for me outside. I was done at that point. Like, so done. So for a second, I went to check if I could speak with one of my trusting supervisors, of whom I call Supervisor Makoto. And before you even call me a weeb or a free fag, I'm only saying... Look, I only named him that for myself, in the presence of myself and my friends, because he was super nice to me when I first started my job, and he really likes cats, and he's helpful and stuff, I think. I mean, yeah, he's super helpful, so... That's the only reason. I don't know if he swims. He probably does, and even if he does, that even further, that would just go to show that that's the perfect nickname that I gave him. I mean, plus when I started working there, I didn't know his name. For the first month I worked at that job, so I just called him whatever I thought. Whatever. Anyway, Makoto wasn't around, and apparently customers wanted to fuck with me because being that I was the only one at a register, there was now a long line of people who needed to be helped. So I had to help every single one of them and basically wait until my supervisor got back. And that's literally what I did until the customers were gone and Supervisor Makoto was back. But damn, That asshole took his sweet time on his fucking lunch, so I had to talk to another supervisor who was completely dismissive of my situation and what I was explaining. He figured that if I felt creeped out by someone and I was on lunch or if I was going to leave the store, it would be okay to be assaulted by this guy because, in the end, if he's old and scrawny and weak and frail, I could just kick his ass and be okay with that. Now, even though that was a tempting thought, I'm not the kind of person who thinks that beating up someone, especially an old man, was an okay thing to do even though I was creeped out. I don't know if this guy had mental issues. I don't know if this guy was from another country and his gesture of wanting to take me out was something he wanted to repay me for helping him out a long time ago. I didn't know this man's situation or this man at all. I had my assumptions about him and his motives, but that didn't mean my thoughts were his truths. Either way, I surely didn't think that violence was the answer, especially considering even if I did kick his ass outside of my job, depending on how anyone would look at it, I would probably be in the wrong and everybody would look at me as if I'm the bad guy, even if I explained my situation and how this guy made me uncomfortable. 'Cause, the law is still a thing and victim blaming is a thing too. Not to say that I'm a total victim, but goddammit, I was tricked out of my number. I mean, I was a victim of that trick, technically. Either way, even if I explained away my story and situation, no doubt it would be my fault that that old fuck tricked me out of my number. It would also be my fault that I didn't change my number afterward. It would also be my fault that even though this guy would show up at my job to buy things, I didn't immediately tell my supervisors about the situation and how he made me uncomfortable. 'Cause they'd obviously believe me, as I explained earlier by my other asshole supervisor who was completely dismissive and thought that beating up a customer would be the better option. Either way, even if I was tricked on that day, and I did explain to my supervisors on that day that I was tricked what happened, I would be overreacting and such, and ultimately probably blamed for falling for that stupid trick. But either way, I'd be the bad guy for not going about a situation properly while this old fuck was alright to hit on me and perhaps other people 50 years younger than him. Whatever, it's whatever. Still, after my stupid supervisor didn't take my feelings or my explanation seriously, I still waited for Makoto, in which I told him, and lo and behold, he trusted me and what I had to say and had me leave. Granted, he told me that I should finish my store duties first before hurrying out, and hurry I did. Granted, I wasn't fucking quick enough. I clocked out of work an hour earlier than usual, and I thought that this guy wouldn't linger about, so I tried to hurry out, and again, because I'm just so fucking lucky and God loves the fuck out of me, this guy was walking up to the store, and that's when I found it appropriate to moonwalk back into the store and tell an associate to walk me to my car. Now, the associate I'm talking about wasn't even really an associate. She was kind of like a part of the security team of the store. Now, I thought because she was a part of the security team and she was a girl, she'd get it. She'd know where I was coming from. She was someone who would speak regularly with the security team. So yeah, I figured that I should have her witness how creepy this guy is, and with any luck, most likely she'll understand and probably have this guy banned from the store. I don't know. Instead, she suggests that we go with this guy to have him take us both out. I didn't know where that came from nor what she was thinking, but almost immediately I was sure to agree. Why? Because she spoke with the security team at the store. Most likely, she probably wanted to get closer to the creepy guy and learn more about what he said or what he did to give her more of a reason for the security team to ban the guy from the store. So I went along with it, and long story short, this guy took us out to a restaurant down the street from our job and started talking to us about getting a better one. Granted, every now and again he would try to get me and this girl to talk about ourselves, our ages, where we were from and all that without so much as talking about himself. I was taken aback because I didn't understand this guy at all. But either way, sooner rather than later, I made it clear that it was a nice gesture of him to take us out, but this action could not be continuous as it would affect me at my job. He seemed to understand that, and I felt a weight of relief lift from me. 'Cause again, it didn't seem like this guy was bad. He just had creepy ways of communicating that I wasn't used to, and perhaps he was just being nice in his own way. Perhaps there was a problem because I barely understood what he was saying, or whatever. I didn't know. I just knew the feeling of me being creeped out by this guy's initial means to take me out hadn't left, and also I still didn't know him. I didn't feel the need to get to know him, and the situation of my younger ass being around this older guy made me feel like some sort of sugar baby. No shame to sugar babies, I'm just not about that life. Hell, after we were done eating, I even insisted paying for my plate, because again, I wasn't alright with the idea of this guy paying for me, and I didn't want him to get any ideas or even think that I owed him. But after bickering for a bit, he insisted, and I was mentally out of it anyway, and just wanted to leave. When it was all said and done, he drove us and even commented on how he wanted to take me to a Chinese food place next time, even though the security lady was still in the car. Yeah, she didn't get the invite, but again, I thought he was only joking because just a second ago I had made it clear that him taking me or us out couldn't be a thing. I laughed it off, but very firmly said no. Then he dropped us off back at work, and when I thought the girl was going to report him or something, she assured me that she only tagged along for a free meal. That fucking bitch. Either way, I waited till the guy's car was out of sight so he didn't see what car I drove, and I hurried home. I haven't seen the guy in a long time, but even so, I plan to nip this in the bud by explaining to the guy the next time he shows up at my job that I'm not interested in hanging out with him in the least bit, nor am I interested in the fact that he's interested in me or taking me out. I'm a terrible person. I talk shit a lot. I don't like people. Plus, saggy skin, liver spots, yellow dentures, and old man breath, also especially gray hair, just aren't a turn on for me. So my young ass is not fucking interested. In today's society, people can immediately get the wrong idea, and because this guy is just a regular customer, I don't want my associates to think that I'm into 80-year-olds, or I'm just trying to hook this guy up with discounts or free shit or anything else that isn't true. I just want to work, get money, and work on my hobbies until a better job comes along so I can finally leave my current one full of old fucking creeps. I knew I should have been a stripper. No, I'm joking. Either way, I've learned my lesson. I'm never going to be too overly trusting or nice to anyone unless they've earned it. My message to anyone who feels that this might happen to them, or they've run into someone who tries to pull these tricks, tell that person you're gay or you have a fiance in the Navy. It works. Tricking people into hanging out with you or getting their number is not normal, and you've got to know that if you're thinking of ways to trick people for your own personal gain in the first place, it's no way to go about things, and I guarantee that at the end of the day, the people you're tricking aren't gonna want to fuck with you anyway, or communicate with your ass, hang out with you, whatever. So why even bother? Just be alone and go catfish someone online and have them talk to you and hang out with you. I don't fucking know. There are sites for this shit, and it's a free sign up. I mean, it's 2016. There's a fucking app for it too. Like, come on. Do that, find a goddamn hobby, or read up on how to socially interact with someone you're interested in without using underhanded tactics or coming off as a fucking scumbag creepy little shit. Jesus Christ, I don't know, find Jesus.